Welcome back to the Impact Show. This is Todd Durkin, and this is a special tribute today to the one and the only, my mom, Muffy Durkin. And I am very excited to share this with you today because, well, it's a tribute to mom's 91 years of living. Mom passed away last week. It was actually April 4th here in 2025. And it's been in just a surreal week in so many ways. And I wanted to put this in honor of mom, knowing that for months this day was coming. You still can't prepare for it when it happens. And I wanted to write and speak my testimony to mom in honor of her life and what she's meant to me, my 7 brothers and sisters, and 13 grandchildren, 3 great grandchildren, and everyone who knew her. She was one special woman. And this one today is dedicated to my mom, Mary Muffy Durkin, aka Momma Durkin. So, Mom, this one's for you, my friend. These are my top 10 memories of Mom Durkin in no particular order, and I'm just gonna get through them. And I promise I'm not gonna break down. I've had many of those moments the last week, just really reminiscing on how fortunate and grateful I am that mom lived for 91 years. That's a good life, 91 years. And we can only hope that we live that long, and to be surrounded by so much love upon her passing is truly something everyone wants on their last days as well. But here we go with the top 10 memories of Momma Durkin all time. Now, this is going to go back a little bit. The first one I just put down, mom paid for massage therapy school in 1994. Now, why am I starting with that one? I'm not sure, but I think it has to do with money because it was $5,000 to go to massage school in Atlanta, Georgia, and it was between off seasons of playing football. I was playing football in the year before that was in Berlin, Germany, and Amsterdam, and then I had 6 months off before I was going over to play in Cannes, France. And I said, I'm going to go to massage therapy school. My sister Patty had encouraged me to do that. And the school down in Atlanta with Dr. Bruce and Marty Costello just happened to be starting 2 weeks after I was getting back there. But the price tag was $5,000. Now, that's a lot of money now. It's certainly a lot of money back in 1994 as well. But I'll never forget mom saying that because it didn't cost her anything for me to go to college, that she'd pick up the tab for massage school. And I remember I was probably 22, 23 years old, and just being so grateful that I was trying to figure life out and what was next. And I wasn't even sure how massage therapy would fit into all of this, but I'll never forget that. And I guess the reason I share is because I could have never repaid her enough times over for that act of love back in 1994 when I was just starting my career. Number 2, in 2019 and 2020, mom needle pointed over 100 get your mind right signs. Literally, she handcrafted 100 get your mind right needlepoint signs, and some of you have seen them before. And somehow she got the idea to do all these signs, and I gave a bunch of them away, and I still have a bunch with me today. I should probably auction them all off for charity, but you know, what an act of love. Over 100, not one, but she sat there for months upon months in 2019 and 2020. Get your mind right. Get your mind right. Over and over again, mom made these signs. And I guess my heart is full of the love and the time that she put into that. So, hey, if anyone wants to make a bid for one of those get your mind right handmade signs, you let me know. Number 3, this goes back a long, long way, but when we were moving from my boyhood home back in Brick, New Jersey, address is 13 Edgewood Drive, I pleaded with my mom to stay in the boundaries of the old Brick High School. Now, there were 2 high schools in Brick, New Jersey, Old Brick and Brick Memorial. And this was big because I had just earned a Pop Warner All-American accolade, and I was going to high school, and I really wanted to play for Coach Wolf. but I needed to stay in the boundaries of the old brick high school because my mom needed to sell her house because it was too expensive for her. Again, she was a private duty nurse and she was a single mom. Dad and her got divorced when I was 5. But unfortunately, when you're 14 years old and you're going into your freshman year in high school, you don't typically have much pull. You can't say, Mom, let's move down the street. But fortunately, my mom listened to me and she rented a very small home on Princeton Avenue for 4 years so I could go play for Coach Wolf and the Green Dragons. And to me, that's sacrifice. That's sacrifice because for 4 years we lived in this home and she rented it. And I got the chance to play for Coach Wolf and ultimately earn a college football scholarship. And it was because of her sacrifice that allowed that to happen. Number 4, mom was the best homemaker, cheerleader, and mom that a boy could ask for. And I mean that. She was so incredible. One of the things I remember, and I'll always remember this, is she did laundry every single night in middle school and high school. Every night. And I'm talking every night after every practice, every game, football, basketball, and then baseball. Every night after getting home about, I don't know, 7 p.m., she'd do the laundry and then she'd fold it and it would be waiting there for me the next morning so I could stuff it in my bag. And then I'd get up and it'd be about 6:40 in the morning and I'd eat about a half a box of Honey Nut Cheerios and a half a gallon of milk. I used to think to myself, man, mom has to go to the grocery store about every other day just to feed me. And my sister Karen was in the house too, but I ate a ton when I was in high school. And she'd always have breakfast ready to go and made dinner every night. And I'm just so grateful that, man, I don't know if any of you have teenage boys, but if they're anything like I was, you eat a lot of food. And mom always had food on the table. Number 5, and this is a big one as well, and I'll never forget this, is I was the lunch ticket kid. I was the lunch ticket kid from first grade through 12th grade. I had those lunch tickets, those ugly orange lunch tickets that I was embarrassed for. And this was the kids that had subsidized lunches. And that was embarrassing at the time, going through the line, knowing your friends knew that you didn't have money. But that instilled in me something that I remember thinking to myself, man, someday I'm going to take care of mom. Someday I'm going to take care of mom. I'm going to do something special for her that she never has to worry about money again. Now, I'm not sure how you grew up and that, but I remember thinking that and feeling that. I remember in sports, you hear about the guy who gets drafted and buys his mom a home or does something special. But I'll never forget that, thinking to myself, man, someday I'm going to take care of mom. And I'll never forget that. Number 6 of 10. In 1994, mom took 27 of us Durkins on a cruise to Bermuda. Yeah, she took a cruise to Bermuda, all of us locked on a ship. So here's the deal. I was playing football in Berlin, Germany. When I got offered the contract to play in Berlin, I told the team I'd love to play in Berlin, but I had a cruise already booked with my entire family, and I couldn't believe it. But they agreed for me to go on the cruise and miss a week of this season. Literally, I couldn't believe it. But the reason that I negotiated that in my contract was because mom would have never been able to afford to take anyone on a cruise. But she was left some money by one of her long-term and long-time patients that she was a private duty nurse for. And when Betty died and left my mom a nice sum of money, rather than put the money away or invest it, mom decided that she wanted to take the entire family, and I'm talking the entire family, on a cruise to Bermuda for 1 week. And her quote was, I want all 27 Durkin family members locked on a ship for 1 week before I die. And that's what she did. We boarded the U.S. Dreamword, I think it was called, and we went to Bermuda for a week, and we had the time of our lives. And to this day, I'm grateful she did that, and that I was able to take a week off from my football season to be with the family. Now you got to realize this wasn't the NFL, but mom had a dream and she made it happen. And well, that cruise of hers, besides being a big price tag, it turned into a love of cruising for my mom. And in the last 30 years of her life, it seemed like she must have gone on, I don't know, it seemed like 2 to 3 cruises a year up until 2020 when COVID hit. But with the family, with friends, or whoever wanted to go out for 3 days or 7 days or even longer, mom fell in love with cruising. She loved it. And I'll never forget that when 27 of us Durkins locked on a ship and we headed to Bermuda, all because of Momma Durkin. Number 7. Now you're gonna laugh at this one. I know I got choked up a couple times. This is a funny one. Muffy loved coffee, butter, sweets, and sugar. Lots and lots of sugar. And she even enjoyed some cigarettes. Yup. No joke. I'm revealing the secret. Mom was known to smoke a few cigarettes too. All right, where do I start with all this? Because it's no secret that mom loved her coffee and crumb cake. And it's no secret she loved butter and sugar and sweets like no one else I know. And I'm talking no one else I know. She'd put butter on everything. She put more sugar in her coffee than there would be coffee. I mean, I'm talking like 12 teaspoons of sugar in her coffee. Heck, I sometimes would wonder, Mom, do you even still have a pancreas? And boy, oh boy, did she love her sweets. Rumor has it she put 9 packets of sugar in her water. And seriously, I couldn't get this woman to drink pure water ever. Even on her last days, I'm like, Mom, you need to hydrate. You need to drink pure water. Don't put sugar in your water. And she'd call it sugar water. I need some of that sugar water. I called it just drinking sugar with a splash of water because, man, she put a lot of sugar in her water. And it's not a mistake they called her Muffy, but honestly, I can't recall a day in my lifetime that mom weighed more than 90 pounds. And by the end, she was holding steady at about 85 pounds. And I think it was her diet, or maybe she was just a medical marvel because she sure was. And if most people ate like mama ate, they wouldn't last 91 years, that's for sure. And speaking of like a medical marvel, believe it or not, mom started smoking cigarettes when she was about 13 years old. And I don't think she stopped smoking until she was about 90. I would ride her from when I was in high school until literally just last year. And to her credit, she would tell me, Todd, I'm giving them up when I come to see you. And little did she know that I would see her sneaking one in here and there back in the backyard. And I think to myself, if this is the only bad habit that mom has, just let her be. And how does the woman not get lung cancer after 75 years of smoking? God will only know, like literally, how the heck she lasted 91 years old. And funny story is on the last trip I saw her back in January here of 2025, it was a beautiful day. And mom said, hey, let's go out for a walk. So I put her in her wheelchair and we're out for a walk. And the sun was beating down on mom's face. And she said, stop, stop, stop. She said, oh, that feels so good. She goes, what I would do for a cigarette right now. Because she would never smoke in front of me because she knew how adamant I was against smoking. She goes, man, what I would do for a cigarette right now. I said, Mom, I'll tell you what. I've never smoked a cigarette in my life. And that's the God honest truth. I said, I've never smoked a cigarette in my life. But if you want, Mom, I'll smoke a cigarette and give you one as well. Her eyes lit up and she said, really? Will you do that? I actually thought about it for a split second of like, man, this would make for a great story. And unfortunately, I did not. I think looking back, I probably would have, just to say, you know what? The only cigarette I ever had was with Momma Durkin, and we did not do that. But it was one of those just precious memories of mom eyes getting wide-eyed and saying, really? Would you do that? Because she wanted that cigarette so bad. So now that you think that she's a medical marvel, a spoonful of sugar makes the medicine go down. Yes, it does. Well, mom sure had a fair share of sugar, sweets, butter, coffee, and she lived 91 full years to tell all about it. Mom, I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you. And if I had one more chance, I might even have that cigarette with you. My first one and your last one. Number eight, mom took some great trips around football, highlighted by her trips to Japan and France, and then she turned into a world traveler. So here's the story. When I was in college, my team went to the Epson Ivy Bowl to play in Tokyo, Japan. The year was about 1991. I was playing at William and Mary, and all the parents had the opportunity to go down on a special package to not only go to the game, but to sightsee all around Japan. And my mom went on that trip, and it was one of the highlights of her life. And while I got a concussion in the game and really don't remember that much about the actual game itself, I do remember mom being there in Japan and having one heck of a great time. And as fate would have it, fast forward a few years later, back to 1995, 1996, and I was just finishing up playing professionally in Europe. Mom was at the last game that I ever played when I blew out my back and ultimately ended my career. And I got to say, it was extra nice to have mom around just a bit while I was laid up and in a hospital bed in a foreign country in France. And the little English they were speaking, it was great to have mom right next to my side. But it all started from that Japanese trip when mom came with, and she loved traveling, and she fell in love with traveling. And then there was a cruise, and it was so much great times in the second half of her life. Number nine is this. Mom was a great guest, a great guest. You know, most of you would never want to have your in-laws there at your house for like 3 days or longer. Well, my mom was the exact opposite. And not just because I'm her son, but even Melanie would attest to the fact that Melanie would also often be in tears at the end of her leaving after 2 or 3 weeks. Because why? Mom was just so easygoing. She was always getting stuff done. She'd come out to San Diego and she'd organize every single day. Melanie would go teach, I'd go to the gym, and she'd be going through piles and piles of stuff and organizing different cabinets and drawers. And it didn't matter if she stayed 3 days or 3 weeks. She was just so easy to get along with, and she was always tinkering with something. And normally you'd be happy to see your mother-in-law leave. Never once did Melanie ever say, "Man, I'm glad that mom is leaving." And she was always a great guest. And I wish she could, well, mom, thank you. And number 10, and this is gonna be a funny one. Number 10 is the day I almost killed my mom at a Perform Better conference in Orlando, Florida. No joke. Mom loved seeing me in action. She'd go to a conference and she loved seeing me do my thing and get in a huddle. But this one time, Perform Better Orlando, Florida, I think the year was 2019. She told me, "Hey, Todd, I want to go in one of those huddles you do with everyone." I said, "Mom, I don't think that's a good idea." She was starting to get weak at this time and out of breath, and she was in a wheelchair. And I said, "Mom, listen, I'll set you up on a chair on the sideline and just sit and watch and take it all in." And she did. She sat in the chair and she watched the entire 1 hour and 15-minute workout like a hawk. I was watching her and she was smiling, sitting there. And at the end, we had this legendary huddle and it was full of hype and energy. And we're about to break down, and Phil Collins is playing in the air tonight. And all of a sudden, in the middle of the craziness of this huddle, who sneaks into the middle of the huddle? I have no idea how she got there, but all 88 pounds of Muffy Durkin. She's singing, she's dancing, she's pounding her fists, and she breaks the huddle down. Literally, this was an epic roar of the huddle. And man, oh man, I remember like being so happy, so ecstatic, and so excited. But at the same time, I was upset. I'm like, "Mom, what are you doing?" Well, the reason I told her not to come in the huddle, because I knew she was already short of breath. But that stubborn little thing, she didn't listen. And she came in and had a moment. Well, it was legendary. It was one I'll never forget. And after the fact, she returned to her chair so dizzy and out of breath that I was so genuinely worried that she was going to kick the bucket right there, literally, that I was ready to dial 911. I think I had the 9 and the 1 dial, and I'm not even joking. Like, it was one of those moments I thought I'm going to kill my mom. And can you believe I could see the headlines? Durkin kills Momma Durkin in legendary huddle. Like 15 minutes passed by, and mom finally started catching her breath. And when she got home and got oxygen, she was all okay. But let me tell you what, I was never more proud of her than that day when she broke that group down with every single thing she had in her. She, she almost died, but she didn't. She had another good 6 years of living still left. And I'll just never forget that. I'll never forget that. And then I have one more. I have it and then some. Go to Heaven and Then Some. Idea World 2017, Momma Durkin signing autographs in Las Vegas. What? Literally, guys, this is crazy. But 2017, I was being honored by Idea with the illustrious Jack LaLanne Award. And to me, it symbolizes the highest award inside of fitness. There were about 5,000 people in the ballroom, and I had my entire family with me, including mom. And I'll never forget this. In my speech, I was speaking about everything I'm grateful for. I was thanking my wife, Melanie, and the kids. And I spent a little longer talking about my mom. And when I was all done talking about mom, mom stands up, faces the crowd, and she gives everyone this big thumbs up. The place went bananas. They erupted in thunderous applause. And I just paused and took it all in because it was so darn special. Because behind every great man or woman, there's a mom that created that person. And that was my mom. Well, on the way out of the room that day, my wife, Melanie's pushing my mom's wheelchair because she's getting weak by that point in her life, and she couldn't walk the distances between the Las Vegas convention centers and the hotels and all of that. And before you know it, I didn't even see them behind me. So I stopped and I went back to find them. And as I find them, my mom was signing autographs. I'm not even joking. I had just come out with my Wow book, and some of the people had purchased it at this award ceremony, and they're asking my mom for her autograph. They didn't even want mine. They wanted hers. And I got to tell you, my soul just smiled. And we joked about it until the day she died, literally, about mom signing autographs of the Wow book there in Las Vegas. Guys, on April 3rd at about 10 o'clock at night, I knew it was my last time I was going to talk to mom. I got a call from my sisters, Karen and Judy, down in Orlando, and they said it's going to be a long, long night. And they said it was probably going to happen sometime in the next few hours. And that if I wanted to say anything else to her, now is the time. I said, of course, I want to say a few more things. Number one, I prayed with mom. Two, I read her a chapter out of the Wow book, chapter 29, which was devoted to my mom. And then I told her to let go. I said, Mom, just let go. You're going to a better place. You're going to heaven. This is the time. Just let go, Mom. Your work has been done. Your legacy has been set. And she could barely talk, but she said something to me that I'll never forget. Very faintly, she said what seemed to take about probably 2 minutes. She said, Todd, I'm proud of you. I've always been proud of you, and I'll always be proud of you. Please keep being you and keep making me proud. And one more thing. I'm sorry for breaking the spoon over your butt when you were a kid. She literally said that. She said, I'm sorry for breaking the spoon over your butt when you were a kid. I love you. I said, Mom, I love you too, Mom. And I'll always love you. And just like that, a few hours later, Mom let go, peacefully, surrounded by family. Well, now that Mom has passed on and moved into heaven, I can't help but reflect on so many incredible years and memories. I feel so tremendously blessed to have a mom for 54 years of life. Many people don't get that long with a parent. It's kind of interesting. I feel like I got robbed with my dad, who only lived to 58 years old, but I feel the exact opposite with my mom, who lived to be 91. 91. And I got to say, before I close out today's podcast, thank you. Thank you to you guys for reaching out. It hasn't been that long, it's just over a week, and the outpouring of love I've received has been so tremendously incredible. If you ever got the chance to meet my mom, you know why. She has friends and even fans everywhere. And I want to say thank you for all the texts, DMs, messages, thoughts, and prayers, because they've meant the world to me and my family. Thank you. Mom, this one was for you today. A special edition just for you, to eulogize you and say thank you, because you deserve it. I love you, Mom, and I'll always make you proud. Without further ado, let's close down today's show with a special message from Momma Durkin. Thank you, and God bless you.
Since he was a young boy, he would be doing something special. And I tell him to this day, though, you better behave yourself, or I'm going to chase you around the table again and crack another wooden spoon over your backside. It was easier for him to get away from me, but I really never hurt him that bad. Seriously, I'm proud of him and love listening to every podcast episode. Keep creating impact, Todd.